Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. Jaime En Fuego here with another Rapido Fuego review for you here on my namesake program, Enfuegotainment. That's right, and yes, this is a direct-to-home release bid. It's also on VOD, and that is none other than the Night Clerk. Yeah, what the hell is Night Clerk is probably what you were asking yourselves, and this is actually one with a star-studded cast. You have Ty Sheridan, he is in the lead here, and I mean, Ready Player One, he was Cyclops in those newer X-Men films when they tried to like reboot with you know, the past stuff with you know, Apocalypse and you know, even thereafter the most recent Dark Phoenix and whatnot. So I mean, very talented kid. And then you've also got Ana de Armas, Be Still My Heart. Beautiful, beautiful Cubano, or Cubana, I should specify in this particular regard. And you've also got Helen Hunt, John Leguizamo. I mean, Ana, everybody has probably most recently seen in Knives Out, and I remember her very fondly from Knock Knock, but that's a different sort of situation here. She also really had her star turn in Blade Runner 2049, but basic situation here is that you have this night clerk at this, you know, just smaller hotel. It doesn't really look like it's, you know, of like the major chain variety, but of course it could be, being somebody who worked in the hospitality industry until the world fell in on itself most recently. I worked at a little boutique hotel as the day job when I wasn't reviewing films and, you know, stuff like that. And yeah, so Sheridan is a guy who is mildly disabled, to, you know, just try to be as politically correct as possible. He has Asperger's, you know, which I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and say it's a form of autism. I think it is, if I'm not mistaken, but, you know, socially awkward, not making eye contact, that sort of situation, and yet he's kind of a pervo a little bit. He has hidden cameras that are inside one particular room, and during his night audits, clerking, kind of hanging out, whatever sort of situation, he watches whoever he puts in his room, and it's, you know, more often than not women. So, you know, they will come and they'll check in, and he will switch their room to that specific one so he can kind of eavesdrop and be a little peeping Tom sort of situation. And that's about the time when we join him. He's mid-20s, his mother is played by Helen Hunt, and then later on, when a crime is committed, and there's a murder, unfortunately, at that particular hotel that he works at, and in the room, no less, that he has this affinity for spying upon, John Leguizamo comes into the mix. So there is legitimate star power in this film, and yes, I know we see this with lots of films that you think are going to be bigger, and then they get, you know, VOD, direct-to-video, whatever. That's obviously what happened with this one. It's not terrific, okay? It's definitely not. I'm not going to, you know, go out and state that, but when you have watched as much crap as I have in the midst of this self-quarantine, this lockdown, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was entertaining. I thought the acting was really good. I thought Sheridan and Ana had really good chemistry together. She reveals at one point in the movie that she had a brother with a similar disability, so as opposed to everybody else that he encounters who just kind of shuns him in society and whatnot. And he doesn't always make it very easy either, you know, because there's one point where he stops to get some ice cream, and this guy who's working the register at this, like, you know, corner store, bodega, convenience store, whatever the hell you want to classify it as, he's wearing this very brightly striped shirt, and he just straight up unfiltered insults his shirt, and he's like, I don't like your shirt, it's very loud, and, you know, so on and so forth, and the guy's like, well, fuck you. And it's really funny, man. And there's a couple scenes early on, and then a few others later in the film, without spoiling stuff, Sheridan's character gets this like renewed sense of vigor and excitement after a interaction with another character. And yeah, I mean, his unfilteredness is probably the best part of the film, along with his interactions with Ana when she shows up. She's a frequent stayer of the hotel who's kind of having an affair, or that she doesn't necessarily think it is initially, and I guess that's the only spoiler that I will be guilty of within this. But yeah, backtracking to the fact that there's a murder that goes down in his surveillance on the DL room, and he's basically wrestling with, what the hell should I do? Should I let the authorities know that I, have evidence that would convict the actual person who committed this, and yet, also sacrifice myself to a degree, or should I just keep things under wraps and protect my ass? That's really the quandary, the paradigm of this entire film. Helen Hunt is unfortunately relegated to just a couple scenes, and she's still good. She has one very powerful monologue in particular about halfway through the film, which is good. And Leguizamo is the guy who's actually investigating and very skeptical of Ty Sheridan's character. I mean, I've seen worse films than this, man, so much worse, and the star power brings a lot. There's some conveniences in the scripting that I cannot deny, obviously, but I mean, bottom line, The Night Clerk was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I still remember looking at the new releases this past week on VOD and home release and whatever, and I'm scraping the barrel for, of course, I can continue binging this TV series, that TV series, but the nice thing about film is that it's a self-contained experience, and it's usually in the 90-minute to 2-hour mark, and it's a lot easier to just get through something, be one and done, and just move on to something else that is a singular essence of artistic expression. And yeah, I really enjoyed this a lot more than I expected it to. I thought it was going to be the equivalent of so much I've seen from, God, I mean, Bruce Willis, for whatever reason, is the big name that comes to mind that I have seen just languish in just home release and DVD stuff for the longest time. This does not feel of that accord to me, at least in its entirety. But yeah, it keeps you guessing. There's some great performances, there's some funny instances, and there's some legitimate star power. So, I mean, as far as Night Clerk, and, Sheridan, I have to really double down, just really quickly before I wrap things up here. He plays the character incredibly convincingly. He genuinely does, and yet you still feel sympathy and warmth despite the fact that he is a flawed character with the weird stuff that he does at times and what he's obviously been up to for a little while. But yeah, man, nonetheless, I dug The Night Clerk. If you've got like a stored up credit on your Redbox, if you've got points, review this, or just go and rent it, I guess I should specify, because I'm the one reviewing it. If you've got, 90-something minutes, I think it's almost 100, whatever, if you have an evening to spare, if you are just curious about kind of a thriller with some romantic elements here and there, I definitely recommend I don't know if I'd recommend the heck out of it, but it's definitely a solid 3-star bueno film. So, I've been Jaime En Fuego. You can find more on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube, here on Enfuegotainment, where I've been just like really revving stuff back up as this, social distancing and, just being relegated back to my home has continued to entail. I've been doing as many smaller films as possible because there's no big films to come out. So, I mean, anything that was on a list of curiosity, I've been VODing. If available, I've been Redboxing because of the fact that, I have my little, antibacterial cleansing wipe, and I get my Redbox, and I'm like, oh, I rented this for $1.75 plus tax as opposed to $5, $6, $7 on VOD. Money's tight, man, it is what it is. But if you want to reach further back to the previous year when I had initially relaunched this channel, Star Wars, Marvel, all the big budget cool stuff, but also counterbalanced with smaller indie art house dramatic stuff, all the Oscar nominations. It's kind of a counter programming of sorts to the other channel that I participate in, which is youtube.com/The Horror Show channel, and that's where we talk about just anything scarific, spooktacular, all that good stuff, whether it's reviews, trailer reactions, unboxings, video game let's plays. We stay relentless in that regard. And so, I've been Fuego, y'all have been awesome, and until the real of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, cinemigos, and constant viewers and readers alike, because that does sometimes happen here. But I'm hopeful that we get to share more of this palaver sooner rather than later. They're coming after us.